and to be a part of that is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, what you said. It's funny, that's what I said in the car.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Right.
I think the other thing is that I feel like we never stop coming of age. You're constantly coming of age, whether you're 15 or 40. Those things still exist, and so I never want to lose touch with that. And I don't think that I have, but I also feel like adolescence is such a unique time in our lives, because we are kind of becoming the people that we're going to be. And my adolescence, I think, was a really, really intense chock-a-block time. So I think that I'm drawn back to that time because, in a way, I'm sort of sifting through for clues. And also, I think that people just underestimate teens all the time. I mean, I think that they're wicked smart.
Except for the stupid ones.
Sorry. Well, it's about me as a teen, but yeah, I feel like one of the great things about writing for teens too is that when they come to your blog and talk to you about your books, just incredibly honest. I think that teens have a sort of no bullshit kind of radar, and I find that very, very valuable. It keeps me honest, and so I'm really grateful for that. But I love writing for teens.
I substitute in the middle and high school, and we have what we call lit circles now, and I read a lot of the YA stuff because it's really good, and I read all of those. I unfortunately have not. I'm through.
That's why I'm sitting.
How do we get there? That's great. I really like that.
Thank you.
And so I'm just glad to see that the kids, there's stuff that the kids will want to read because they're either on the iPod or the phone or the computer, and I get so frustrated that they don't read. But I've seen more kids with books, and if you guys are writing the quality that you're writing now from hordes of authors, this is so great.
Thank you, and thank you also for being
yeah, well, we all have to survive somehow.
Do either of you regret something you wrote in one of the books, or even as you've been writing, have you didn't go the course you thought you would go, it just turned out totally different than what you expected?
Do you want to start?
Remember how I mentioned the sweet part thing?
Yeah.
I wrote an entirely wrong first draft. It was 560 pages, and I threw away almost all of it.
Oh.
It just wasn't right. And I mean, it's when you take something out of the fridge and you're like, we'll toss that. So it didn't feel real. I always think about two things I try to think about when I'm writing. One is from Jennifer Jacobson, who's a wonderful middle grade and YA writer. And she says that she asks herself 3 times when she sits down, is it true yet? And the other comes from my friend Maureen Leary, who's also a wonderful writer. And she says that she was talking about a book one time that she read, an adult bestseller. And she said, I felt like it didn't cost him anything to write it. And so I always think about that, about the cost, and it's always about trying to find whatever emotional truths are in there. So I think that was it. When I wrote that first draft, it was it didn't feel true, it didn't feel real, I wasn't under the skin, it didn't cost me anything yet, and I had to get to a place where it did, where it started to feel real. So I would say, I don't regret, it would have been nice not to have wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, but definitely that was a case of something that it wasn't working, and I just looked at it and went, bleh.
Yeah, talking about once the book has been published and you're reading through it, luckily, knock wood so far, there are sentences I regret. You always, no author reads a published book and doesn't find something that they could have improved, something they could have tightened, something. But usually it is on that level. It's not on the that ending was wrong. I think we're fairly proactive and not making sure that it goes out into the world until it's ready to go. There's one one of the things I enjoy the most reading out loud is the final story in The Realm of Possibility, my second book. But there's one line in there, it contains the phrase treasure chest ashtray, which is the biggest tongue twister in the world. Like, every time I read it aloud, I trip on this one phrase, and it's gotten to the point that like I dread it. I'm like, oh, treasure chest ashtray is coming. It's impossible to say fluently, and it's like the lights are flashing. And you know what? If I could go through it all again, I would not. It's that awful feeling of I'm about to fail, and I did it to myself. I put these words there, and yet I have to read it out loud because the rest of it is beautifully like fluid, and it's so much fun to read. But it's just like there's that one like bump in the road. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just wondering, like you mentioned that you had an entirely different like first rough draft. How did it differ? Like,
it was really bad. hopefully the book ended up not being quite so bad. It was kind of nutty.
They were all robots, right?
The big Bollywood number. Robot Bollywood. I'm telling you, that is the next thing. Forget vampires, trademarks, robot Bollywood. You heard it here first. Now all I can think about is how much I want to write a robot Bollywood.
In the car ride home.
It involved, like, there were these, for instance, there was this strange sort of hybrid man-spider creature. It was really, really, already you're like, oh. Good thing that one went right. And he was sort of this unreliable, almost like what's his name? This is what's so awful. Lord of the Rings.
Gollum.
Thank you. Oh my God, this is what happens to your brain after a certain age. I always think it's advanced motherhood. But it just, it wasn't working. And I think the biggest thing though was with Gemma, because I had assumed that after Rebel Angels she bound all that power to herself. So I was talking to Holly Black. We were working it. Do you like how I dropped that name?
Yeah, totally.
You didn't love it when I do that? Johnny Depp. Leonardo DiCaprio gets pissed off.
Did they both storm out of the bed at the same time?
I still hope that part makes it onto YouTube.
That was in the first draft.
They wouldn't let me keep it.
I know. Weird.
My editor, she's nasty.
Totally.
I thought it was so period piece,
Well, you changed it so it was like Johnny Wep.
Because I'm clever that way.
I didn't realize
the biggest thing actually was emotionally, because Gemma, I figured she had bound all that magic to herself, and Holly and I were talking about, what would happen, and we both said, well, she'd party like a rock star if she had all that magic. But then about halfway through it ran out of steam, because if you're starting up here, there's nowhere to go. So then I had to, then I came back to, well, what happens if this power that she's been sort of very ambivalent about, what if she can't find it? And that changed the whole emotional tone of what the novel was going to be. And then I could just kind of see it like a house of cards, just going, and that was that. But yeah, there were a lot of weird things in there that, if I could ever, actually, there's certain copies of Rebel Angels, the paperback, where they had put a teaser for the Sweetbar thing, and of course I was writing it. I was like, how can you put a teaser in? They said, just give us, give us what you have. And the teaser that's in there, of course, it's like a rare B-side.
You put the tease in the teaser.
I sure did. I put the in the teaser.
Yeah.
I have a question for Libba. What prompted you to put the poem "The Lady of Shalott" as like a prologue of sorts to the To a Great and Terrible Beauty, and like why did you choose to go back to it later?
That's a great question. They all start with poems. I've always loved The Lady of Shalott. For some reason, as a child, that was a poem that really meant something to me. I had a thing about the Arthurian legends as a child. That was fun. It was fun doing things with my stuffed animals. Arthurian legends with my stuffed animals.
And then you turned 17.